Hey friends, you're listening to the AI Entrepreneurs Podcast, where we talk tools, stories, and strategy for today's founders. I'm your host, Angelina Shively, and this show is for entrepreneurs who are curious about AI and want to know how to transform their businesses. In each episode, I share honest conversations about what's working, what's not, and the lessons learned along the way. If you're ready to use AI to save time, think bigger, and build smarter, you're in the right place. Let's go. All right, audience, I am so excited to welcome Jennifer Alford to our podcast today. Jennifer, thank you so much for being with us. And I wanted to know if you could just start off by telling us a little bit about your journey into AI and how you got started with your business.
Absolutely. So excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me on. I have been in tech in some form or fashion for probably the last 20 years.
Okay.
My main gig back in the day was interpreter for the deaf. So I spent a lot of time breaking information down into a different language and communicating that to a different culture.
Okay.
And as I started to retire out of that, my part-time web design business became full-time.
Okay.
And so that is where the tech part came in. I learned web design, email marketing, SEO, and that is what I was offering to my clients, just small business clients. And so I would incorporate systems to be able to make sure I could keep up with everyone. And that started full time about 3 or 4 years ago when I retired from interpreting for the deaf and went full time into web design. And then when I first learned about AI, I was like, sign me up. What do I do? Because I love all things tech. And so I knew that we had been using AI in small ways that we didn't really know, like with on our phones, get into it, and little Amazon
Features like with Alexa.
yeah,
Yeah.
with Alexa, yeah, so I knew that all of that was AI. There's a lot of things that we use AI that we don't realize are AI. But when we had access to it, I was like, "How do I get involved? What do I do?" So I think ChatGPT was the very first thing that they were letting people into, and so I signed up. I signed up very quickly as somebody that was paid because I wanted to dig in and I wanted to see what all was available. And as I got into it, I was blown away by what AI could do. It never scared me. Maybe it should have. I don't know. There was a lot of people that were like, you better watch out. You better watch out. I was like, no, this is amazing. You guys have no idea. Like, this is to our society what a phone was, what a calculator was, what Google was. Like, y'all get ready. And so, anyhow, I just learned as much as I could, as fast as I could. And I started applying everything I was learning to my web design business. And so I started creating systems for building my websites out and how I would ask questions and how I'd receive those questions. And it would help me to build out, it helped me interact with my customers and know what they were looking for. It helped me scour the internet for things that should be on their website with SEO. And so as I did that, then the last year and a half, I found out UGC, and which is user generated content, where we're making videos for just regular people making videos for people and or for brands.
Now, how did you get involved in that? Tell us a little bit, because that
Yes.
is something that listeners may not have heard of. What tells
Yes. Okay.
what?
So I had not either. So UGC, user generated content, is basically just videos where you're holding a product or you're talking about a service and you're just doing it from your point of view because we're just a regular consumer, and brands were becoming more and more aware that those types of videos were converting much better than paid actors like we have grown up with. So that has become more and more popular. So it switched from the paid actors to influencers who they would pay thousands and thousands of dollars to promote their stuff.
Right.
Then it shifted over to just your regular person who felt comfortable getting on the camera and making videos about things. And That's how it was presented. You just get up here and you just share your thing.
And how does someone get involved in UGC in the first place?
So I was just scrolling TikTok one day and I saw a UGC creator and she was explaining what it was. And I was like, I was
Right.
actually thinking about my sister-in-law. I was like, oh, she's really good because at that time I was like, oh, it's just somebody making reviews. And so she was just talking about how she just kind of learned by watching other people online. And I was like, okay. So I sent it to my sister and then I started seeing this other coach who taught UGC, what a quote taught. She really does teach UGC. And her name is Megan. And she was talking to UGC potential creators over
Okay.
40 because brands were looking for older creators to represent their products because our kind of products are way different than people in their 20s. Because this has been going on for people in their 20s and 30s like a long time.
Right.
But not so much for the older generation. And so she was saying, hey, organizations and brands are looking for 40 and older creators. And so she had this course I took. And that's again, I was like, my sister would be great for this. I wasn't even thinking of it for
About yourself. Right.
oneself at all. I was
Right.
more like, oh, they're probably going to need a portfolio. Let me help them with their web design part of it, that kind of thing. But the more I got into it, the more I was like, well, oh, this is awesome. I think I could do this. I was like, I think Chad could do this. My husband. I was like, so we're almost empty nesters. This could be like a midlife adventure instead of a midlife crisis. And so we
Okay.
started doing UGC together, and it was so much fun. Like, we would have so much fun recording and making videos for people, and you would not believe the companies that are asking for UGC, like hospitals and services and the brands that serve our community and our
Right.
group. They're out there asking for people to do this. And so that's how I got into UGC and I'm loving it. So now I'm running not just one business, but two businesses, basically full time. And I'm feeling
Amazing.
really overwhelmed.
Because that's a lot to be taking all of that on.
Yes.
And so what did you decide and how did you move forward with that?
So I was like, okay, I have been using AI and the platform that I settled on after going through probably 4 or 5 different types of AI platforms was Claude.
Okay.
Claude, I know. So I guess about 2 or 3 years ago, whenever it was first introduced, I hopped on quick. I started paying very quickly. So I ended my subscription with Chat and went over to Claude and started paying the $20 a month.
Right.
And so started learning all about it, started creating projects for all the different things. I was like, okay, if I can do this for a web design business, that means
Right.
let me, and that's the great thing about already being in a business is you can shift gears and be like, okay, if this works over here, this could probably work over here. Just got to pivot a little bit. So I started creating projects for all of my UGC things like my email responses, my calculators, like how do I calculate how much I'm going to charge for this, or comparing the contracts between what a brand would send me versus what, because I feel if you're going to do any kind of content, you need a contract. And so I immediately, just knowing that from my web design business, bought a contract for doing UGC. And so I would use Claude to help me compare the two and see where I need to push back a little bit. And then how do I pitch now that I know kind of what I'm doing? How can I reach out to clients? Just all kinds of things. And then we would get content briefs, which are basically a breakdown of what they want us to record.
Okay.
They come in Google Docs, they come in PDFs, they come in Google Sheets, they come in a calendar presentation. They just come in all forms. And at half the time, I'm like, I know I'm reading English, but very confusing. And so I built a system in my UGC project over here for reading that, figuring out what the cost breakdown was, what exactly they were asking me to do. So I could go back to them and say, okay, this is what I'm hearing from you. It's kind of like that parent that's saying, okay, I hear what you're saying. Let me repeat back to you what you're asking.
Right.
Make sure that we were clear. And so I was using this system for probably 6 months. And I was in these UGC communities and people were asking the same kind of questions I was. And so I'm a questioner. I'm also a big listener. I'm like absorbing information from all
Right.
place, and I'm seeing these questions are asked over and over and over again. And so the two questions that I was seeing the most in these communities was, how do I build my portfolio to look professional? And I was like, ding, ding, talk to a
Right.
web designer. The second thing was, how do I price this out? Or have you ever heard, because that's one of the things that I included was a brand vetter. Have you ever heard of this company? Are they legit? Is this a spam? Is this and so I was just like keeping track of all these questions. And I'm probably in 4 or 5 different communities. So I was just keeping track. I was like, these are the same questions I'm having. If you're having them and I'm having them, okay, how can I get this Claude project that I put all this project knowledge into? How can I get that to the masses? And I was like, I have no
Right.
idea. I have no idea how I'm going to do this. So then I started.
It was the problem, and you're like, how can I solve it? Okay,
Yes,
let's.
yes, I love a good problem. And I'm what I call tenacious because it sounds
Yeah.
saying stubborn. I will
Right.
fight until I figure it out. And that's what I did with this product that I created called
Okay.
UGC Sidekick.
Okay. Tell us. So you're doing kind of like this research where you're taking in all these problems. You're like, okay, I'm going to create this solution. So what did that process look like for you?
Sure. It first started with I was popping on all these calls with a little bit like the older generation that was like, okay, I love making the content, but everything else makes me feel crazy. There's a lot of admin behind the scene that doesn't always get talked about on social media. The answering the emails, to knowing how to answer it. How do I structure this? How do I make sure that I'm not getting taken advantage of? And so I would hop on calls all the time with either my generation or older, like, how do I do this? And now even some younger people that are just not as tech savvy. And and what I was finding is most of these people were using tech, but not in the creative way. That was more like
Right.
in their office system, that kind of thing. And so as I was on these calls, I started thinking, these people are loving creating, but are so bogged down. Because creating is 20%, all the admin is like 80%. I'm like, I feel you. I don't have time to do the admin part. And so that's what I was using my stuff for. And so I would start putting it into my, like their questions into mine, but it was very personalized to me because I had my rates in there. I had our brand voice in there, had all that. And so I was like, look, this is just what's coming out from mine, but you can use it to have a starting point. And so I would send them that. And I was like, this is not good enough. Like they need to have their own personalized product that they can use. And so I was like, should I put it in GPT? Do I send this over to them in a Google Doc? I'm like, I'm constantly changing mine. So that doesn't make sense. Updated GPT or Gem, and it does work. But I found those big LLMs tend to hallucinate a lot after a while. Like, they start to just like, at first, they sound good and everything's going well, and then all of a sudden, they start crawling out, and I was like, "No." So when I first started hearing about AI agents and really learning what's the other one? It's RAG, but I can't remember what it stands for. But basically, closing things in, like, you're only gonna get information from here,
Yes.
from like, you're within a boundary, like a kitchen manual for your dishwasher. You're only gonna get the information from here. I was like, "That is what I need." And so I started learning more about AI agents. I think I probably read 4 or 5 books about AI agents and listened to them in podcasts, YouTube videos, and probably 3 or 4 months, I was like, "This is exactly what I need." And so with doing content creation, I stumbled upon a text that another creator was using, and MindPal was one of them. I was like, let me look into that. And I peeked into the back and I was like, oh, wait, see, this could work.
You've come across your solution. Okay, so
Yes.
for listeners who are not familiar, MindPal is a tool that you could really customize what's coming in and what's coming out, still using the LLMs, but very much focused on what you want it to be looking at. And I've been using it. That's actually how Jennifer and I met, was through a MindPal group. But so tell us, what did you just, I'm guessing you probably just kept learning because that sounds
I
first
did. So
mature. So what
I went
happens next?
knee deep on their YouTube channel and just started watching what all it could do. And okay, I think this is going to make sense to me. And so at first I had everything that I wanted it to do was in a Google Doc, and it was like in this huge, long, long, long Google Doc. And then I realized, oh, I think I probably need to break that apart into different documents because not everything I needed it to do needed to pull from every document.
Yeah.
And I broke that down. And then I started creating AI agents, which was
Okay.
crazy. Inside my
Like,
how
I don't know, but I just did it.
yes, literally, I'm just like talking and I'm over here on Claude saying, and a lot of the large language models like Chat and Claude, they know MindPal. And so I'm over here chatting like, hey, how can I do this? Or how can I make this
Right.
happen? And I don't know if the listeners will know this, but the different platforms have different personalities. Chat is very encouraging and they think you're the best thing since sliced bread and they will just cheer you on and they won't give you any like pushback. Some of the other ones are like, that sounds like a good idea, but have you thought about this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyhow, I was using all of them because as most AI platform nerds will tell you, we can't just have one platform because they all do different things and they do different things. They can all do the same thing, but they all do different things. And so I was going back and forth chatting between all of them until I came up with a system. So at first I was trying to stick everything into one AI agent. Then I learned, okay, that's probably not what I need. And so I
Right.
broke it all down. And so I ended up building, I don't even know how many tools there are, but I think there's 10 or 12 different, very individual tools and I taught it to pull from individual Google Docs that I had very specific information in that I wanted it to use. And then I told MindPal, I only want you to pull from these things because there's some things that I didn't want it just to search the web. I only wanted it to pull from this Google Doc. But there's some things that like, you can search the web, but only if you're doing this. And so
Right.
I love that you can give it very specific information about when it's doing what.
Right.
And the whole goal for this was that I wanted UGC creators to get back to creating content and not be spending time behind the computer. I didn't want them to have to figure out, like, I need to learn a prompt for this. I need to learn a prompt. No, you don't have to learn a prompt. Just copy paste that thing in there and see what it's
Right.
because that's literally how I would answer my emails. I would copy it into my Claude project and it would just spit out the email with the pricing, everything ready to go. I would
Perfect.
put it back into the email and then I would give it a like, I wouldn't even read the email when I first got it. I just put it there, put it back, and then in the response, and then I would read through and make sure everything looked okay. And so that's what I wanted for UGC creators. I wanted them to get back to the love of creating content, not the dread of all the admin work. And I was like, if this is working
Right.
for me, it can work for other people. And so MindPal was helping me build that out. And so I started learning about the AI agents. I started learning about the workflows and things like that. I'm like, where am I going with this? I have no idea what I'm doing.
So you created all these agents,
Yeah.
and each of the agents have very specific tasks that you've given them with directions that are so specific. But now you're like, okay, how do I get this to people?
Yeah.
So that's the next
That
step.
has been
Then,
my biggest challenge is how do I keep this super personalized to each person that's using this? And I really wanted to make sure that this whole system was very creator focused. Like I wanted them to be protected because brands, as there are brands out there that are trying to protect the whole system, but
right,
most brands aren't. And I really wanted this to speak to the UGC creator. And I am typically a very encouraging person. I'm a cheerleader. I want to see you succeed. And so I baked that in. Not
okay.
a sense of positivity, but okay, don't let them push back on this because you are worth this. And so I baked some of that in there too.
Super
Thanks
fast
for
friend.
listening
If
to
you're
the
loving this
AI
episode,
Amplified
make sure you
podcast for
follow the show and
entrepreneurs.
leave a
If you wanna
5-star
learn more
review.
about my work,
And if you
head on
want
over to my
help
website
actually
at
using AI
coaching
to build
with
content and
Angelina.com.
sales,
If you
come
enjoyed
join us
today's
inside
episode,
the
be sure to
school
subscribe
community.
and share this
AI
podcast with a
Amplified
friend.
Entrepreneurs.
See you next week.
The link is in the show notes. Okay.
So then I was like, okay, how do I get this out there to them? How can they use it and it be personalized? And what does it look like on that side? And so then I think I found you in the Mind
Yeah, MindPal Facebook group, exactly.
and I think you had been using Base 44.
Right.
And they had done, MindPal had done like a you, or either you, maybe you had done a walkthrough of how you did it. So anyways, I was like, okay, I think this is the end.
Yeah. Like, yeah. Now then you were able to get the interface so that you have the pretty dashboard that people
Yes.
can go to and your agents are running the back end.
Yes, like the brains of
Ah,
the system. Yes. And so now, yeah, it looks like a beautiful dashboard that they can go in. And once I got Base 44 set up, I'm like, "Ugh, I love this because it created this profile builder. I had already done, because I feel like AI, a lot of times it can just sound like everybody sounds the same. Everybody
right.
sounds the same. And it was very important to me that even as a UGC creator, that you have your own brain voice, because we all have our voice and how we talk and the words we use, the words we don't use, and our everything that we are. And so I wanted their AI system to sound like them. And so one of my agents was building your brand voice as a UGC creator. What does that sound like? And so I built that in with Base 44 where they can go in and fill out this whole chat, and it gives them this printout basically that they can use anywhere. And so they put that into the profile builder in Base 44. And then it fills out this whole profile for them. And the really cool thing is it's programmed into Base 44 that no matter which chat they use, it's always pulling from their brand voice, from what social platforms they work on, what their pricing is, the whole 9 yards. It's
Right.
all pulling from that so that, like, I have a script writer in there, I have a brief analyzer, I have an email response generator in there. So all of that is pulling from their specific information. So between my Google Docs, which is my project knowledge, and MindPal and Base 44 all working together, then I was able to create this beautiful project.
Created an amazing app. And so tell us a little bit. So now you're like, okay, I have this product. And then how did you begin to market it? How did
Yeah,
you
'cause that's
had
a whole different thing.
exactly. And I feel as I'm learning, like you put all this effort into creating this little baby, but then you're like, oh, and now we have to go actually market it. Okay.
Yeah.
So what happens next?
Yes. I'm a web designer. I understand that there needs to be an online presence for things. Well, I have a graveyard of amazing ideas and products on my computer that never made it to the light of day. And they're
Okay.
awesome, but they've never made it there. But like, this is not going to be one of those. So I had to market this thing. And so I learned, I've used WordPress, I've used Squarespace. I've heard about Wix. I haven't used it a lot, but I play with it a little bit. I've used all kinds of different platforms for building websites, but I heard about GoHighLevel. And so I was like, okay, let me see what I can do here. And the thing I love about GoHighLevel is that you can do your funnels, you can do a landing page, a funnel, you can show them some things that can go with your product, you can get them on the email list, there's all kinds of automations, and it's all like right there together. So you're not having to pull 15 different platforms together. And so I created my landing page on GoHighLevel, and it's connected to Base 44. And so like in the back end of Base 44, where I'm just like asking questions, I'm like, I need to connect to this, I need to connect to Stripe, I need to do this and this. It's helping me do all that. And
Right.
so then I have a landing page where it's just like a general, like either you can log in to the app if you're already in there, or you can learn more. And so then I have a learn more page where it gives you a little more description, have some testimonial videos, that kind of thing. And then you can sign up. And so I created a way in the back end of Base 44 to have a 5-day trial. So you can try everything out, all the tools that it does for 5 days to see, oh, do I love this? Is this going to help me in my UGC business? Let's hit yes, it will. You'll spend a lot less time behind the screen. And yep, that's my tech stack for
Amazing.
Sidekick. Yeah.
Amazing. And I think the thing I want to highlight is just that you had a vision and an idea, and you were like, I want to make this happen. And you did. And it's such a sense of, oh my gosh, look what I just created. I am not a coder. I am not a serious tech developer, but
Wow.
able to create this amazing product. It's so cool.
Yeah.
So, if users want to test this out, I want to encourage them. I'm going to put a link in our show notes we'll put the link where they can check that out. And is there any advice or as you were going through this process, like something that you're like, I want people to know this, like about creating an app or a tool?
Yeah. I feel like we have entered into an era where we can take the ideas in our brain and actually make them happen online. I've always felt like I was like 10 years ahead of what I wanted to see happen or what something I wanted to do. But I think we're in an era now that we can see our ideas actually come to life. So don't let the tech part hold you back. And that is something that has been so exciting about being in a community is that there's so much learning that's happening. Like I've been doing AI since it opened up, but I am still learning like so much. And to be in a group of people that are like as excited as I am about learning new skills and learning how to take our ideas because this is just one thing I created. I have been working with my web design clients and creating other fun things for them. And it's just, okay, the sky's the limit at this point. So it's not necessarily, oh, I have to be very techy, like at all. It's just,
Right.
I think being a natural question somebody that likes to ask questions and then like just seeing where it leads from there. And
Yes.
there are little tips and tricks that you should know when you're using different platforms to help you save like credits and tokens and things like that. And you were instrumental in helping me. Oh, I need to ask the questions over here and then bring it back over here. So I wouldn't
Absolutely.
waste all my tokens or whatever. But
Right.
it's been amazing creating UGC Sidekick. I think it's going to revolutionize
I am
how
excited.
UGC creators run the admin side of their business because there's so many tools out there for them to help them create. But I'm just like, there's nothing here that is helping to protect the UGC creator and helping them run their business. And I'm so excited to
I
offer
love that.
them.
And I love what you said about, I think the biggest for me, this takeaway listening to your story is when you see a problem and you can come up with a creative solution for it, the sky's the limit. And I think, like what you said, being around people who are focused on action and taking action is so powerful. And that's one of the things that we focus on a lot in our AI amplified entrepreneur community is just we can learn and support each other and also just gain so much knowledge by being together. So thank you for taking the time to share this with our audience. And I will be sure to link your app in the show notes for everyone to
Thank
check out.